Yeah, it's the inconsequential things that make it that really matter. Yeah, yeah. I used to be the guy on that other end that would have to go and check that shit out. Yeah. I had one guy tell me, go ahead. Uh huh. Um, I There was a university I used to work at in tech support, and had a guy call me who it was such like a badly written Hallmark movie interaction. And he said, "I my computer can't connect to the network, can't get out to the internet." And I said, "Okay." Um, he's like, "I need somebody to come over here and check this out for me." And I was like, so I tried to squirrel into his computer and I couldn't. And I was like, "Okay, well let's do some over the phone stuff." And he was like, um, and he straight up told me, "I'm a professor in the College of Law." And I was like, "Okay, but not tech, you know." But anyway, so then he said, "I think all the basic stuff is something that I would have covered already. Please don't insult my intelligence further." And I was like, "Okay, if you don't want to check for like, is the power on?" Kind of it. So back then, before like TCP/IP over wireless became like the thing, you had right back then when we shouted things across hills at each other. So most high speed stuff was wired. You did have like the capability for wireless, but it required like bulky setup. Yeah. Yeah. So, huh? That's right. So I trudged my ass across that college campus, and the first thing, yeah, yeah, uphill both ways through the snow. And when I get there, he's like leaning back, twiddling this pen or pencil or something, and he's like, "It's over there. Have at it." And the first thing I do is I like look under the desk and I pull up the cord and I go, "The first thing I'd like for you to know is that this can't just suck all the information out of the air. It has to get like plugged in." And he goes, "Oh, I was traveling and I clicked it in. Just I ignored what he was saying, clicked it in, just looked, and then okay, well have a good day." To this guy's credit, he did, as I remember, he sent like some cookies or something and apologized. Over he sent them to the department. Um, anyway, whatever. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. a person playing a piece. This is obviously a young person. Now, one thing I want to call to mind before we even get into the what's going on here. I don't know, but I'm getting a little motion sick. So it's not on the window anymore. I don't. No, I was on the video of the person actually playing. You know what? Let's just play this one first, or not. Okay. So this person is playing in this way that that I see a lot of musicians, especially guitar players, play. Mhm. Right. Now there is a lot of forward rotation of the, in this case, what I think is the right hand. There is probably a quite proper shoulder set on the left arm, right? Because that elbow's forward and the arm's up like this. So shoulder blade is probably optimally positioned for the execution of sustained and continued tasks. The thing that right has to for the forearm to be able to rest like it does. But what I want to call to mind here is the inherent price to be paid away and aside from anything. I can almost bet you that this person either does or will suffer from chronic headaches, um, and probably will develop like pain in the neck, yeah, highly uncomfortable presentation, or I'm sorry, executions of, for instance, if she wanted to turn, I'm assuming I'm assuming this person's gender, and that's not doing anything other than just going off of hair and fashion choices. So if I'm wrong about that and this person never sees that, my apologies if I have misgendered you. But making the assumption, you can see like a lot of the postural muscles of the head are really, really activated on the one side, and they are quite developed on that one side. What's that? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Problem. Okay. Well, so the deal is that the we have the muscles that are going to be involved. We have the presentations or circumstances that are going to be involved for the execution of a task. That is away and aside from the muscles required to actually execute the task. For instance, it is possible for this person never to look down at their hands, never to crane their neck over and play. There's also a way. There's also a way for this person to be seated um, more upright, tilt the guitar over just a bit so that the arm doesn't have to fold over the pause it here. So you can see here this pronounced development. And if this person is playing like a classic guitar and plays that frequently, I don't imagine that there is much in the way of switching sides going on, right? Like I don't imagine that this individual, right? I don't imagine this individual is often shifting hands. So in the future, any attempt that this individual is ever going to make to like turning their head that direction is going to be met with far greater resistance than turning their head that direction. Uh, Now, all that being the case, uh, that like I said, there are these muscles that are what's going on here. There are these muscles that are recruited for setting up to execute the task, and then these muscles that are recruited during the execution of the task. Um, Let me put it. I mean, like if I am working on a car and I'm underneath the car, or let's go to something like something more relatable for a greater amount of the population, which is like unscrewing a light bulb from overhead. I have, what's going to unscrew the light bulb is this motion, right? The grip and then the twisting motion to unseat the light bulb. What's going to replace the light bulb is slight upward pressure, but really not much, because once the threads of the light bulb catch on the threads of the socket or the housing, then all I have to do is maintain this, and it pulls itself. Yeah, right. It seats itself. However, in order for me to do that, I have to, presuming I'm standing on a ladder, or I'm whatever I'm wherever the light bulb is. Let's say I don't even need a ladder, but I have to posturally set myself in a way that reaching my arms up is going to be safe and stable, and whatever steadying utilities I need around me, I possess. And then the actual lifting of the light bulb or the lifting of my arm to unscrew it, and then articulating and then replacing the light bulb. So I'm setting up with all these muscles, and then I'm actually performing the actual performance of the task is occurring with this rotation. That's the only thing. Right. Yes. Mhm. Right. You're not, I mean, light bulbs, and if we're taking the light bulb analogy, um, there are all different kinds of sizes of light bulbs. There are all different wattages and power expressions and all that. It's very difficult, I would imagine, to find one, except for like maybe like a light bulb that goes into a car, or like some brake lights or something, that those seat and unseat via like some kind of pressure clip or something like that. But if it's, we all can relate to changing a light bulb in the house, even if even not as many of us can relate to like pulling, like a tension based. The way it relates for this guitar player is that, she has this position where this arm is articulated over this. The actual playing of the guitar is accomplished by this and by this, right? So we could have a pillow situated in front of them where the guitar is able to lean a little more this way, and so there's not as much of a challenge to do whatever. That would affect the resonance of the guitar and all that, I'm sure, but it could happen. Now, but it would probably render the hollow body aspects of the guitar a little less effective. But the actual execution of the guitar only requires that this manipulates. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So so then, in order to weather through um, rote memorization or repetition, there's this necessity to set up and look at what your hand's doing, just like periodically, if you're typing, looking down at whatever it is you're typing. Um, there is the holding up of the arm, the arm that's controlling the depression of the strings for on the neck of the guitar between the frets. There's that positioning, but the only thing required to actually play is the ability to do this and the ability to do this, right? Uh, but the setup requires all this other shit to get involved. So we're actually faced with two sets of habits. There's whatever impact this constant action produces, and then there's the impact that doing this for hours and hours a day. And this young person is very talented, right? There are there are few credible arguments, I think, that a person could make as to their lack of talent. But uh, these muscular devotions necessary to enable the execution of the task, right? Not even the execution of the task, just setting up for the execution of the task. Right. Do you? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. 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 So, um, well, when I look at it, okay, right there. So go back to the very beginning of it. So there are a couple of. Can you slow this one down? The speed of this down? No. Okay, that's all right. So let's go ahead and look at this. That's okay. You don't need to do that. Just need to click over to the beginning of it again a couple of times. So as we look at this, go ahead and press play. Now, as this person is no, just go ahead and let it go. What we're going to watch is the first couple of seconds while this is being performed. Uh, so from 0 to 5 seconds, we see that the other fingers don't get involved. From what time? What time frame are we at now? Right. From about 15 or probably let's see. Okay, so there we have the other fingers weren't involved. The second attempt, other fingers, yeah, dropping, and it's only when a greater range of motion is expressed that the other fingers start to tremble as well. Now, John, you and I talked about the comments on this, and a, a, a greater than zero number of people were suggesting this was a condition called focal dystonia. And okay, psychiatric disorders, essential tremors, and musculoskeletal conditions. Um, now, 1,000,000%. I'm just talking about the people who are commenting, "Oh, that's focal dystonia," which it could be, right? For a 20-second video, it could be. Who knows? I mean, none of us now. I do want to make it clear: the original poster did say that they were a musician, correct? Okay, no, that's okay. So they're in this predicament. Mhm. Whenever, okay, right. And I've always had, yeah. Now, that's something that a lot of people have. And if this person, now, as we saw from the previous clip of the other young person playing, if this person is playing what looks to be a more difficult than Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star piece of music, then what we can surmise. I mean, this isn't a beginner's piece, right? Now, if we look at this person playing, there's a lot of activation going on here in both fingers. There's a lot of manipulation. Now, as they really get into it, there's a lot of this presence of that index finger on the picking hand being really bent in, right? Like you can see how the knuckle on the index finger. If I'm holding my fingers up, you can see, and I do like this. You can see how that index finger knuckle sinks closer toward the palm than the other knuckles, and it does it consistently. I don't know if that's across the thing, like across the board. That's how you play that piece, but I do know it manifests. Yeah, no accompaniment. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. 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 Yeah. So there are two concepts that should be discussed here, and I'm sorry, two ends of the same concept. And when we're talking about something like this, before we get to that, let's talk about how everyone jumps on and says focal dystonia. Oh, you've got focal dystonia, which that very well may be. Sure. Um, but it's also quite possible that the hand twitching that you see is the direct result of repetitive, unending repetitive movement. And like we addressed, this is not a beginner's piece. And this person said, whenever I play this piece, I get this problem, right? Now we saw the tendency of like, you know, as we're going into this. Now, for me, just bending my knuckles like this, right? You can automatically see that the knuckle of my middle finger, the first joint extends far lower, or far more than the knuckle of my index joint. But as this person's playing, you can really see this dip down just a whole bunch. Um, that is programming, right? Or that is programming that occurs over thousands of hours of practice, right? And at 17, that's a lot of practice in what is arguably so far a relatively short life, right? There's not a whole lot of that life that has been explored yet. So that's a lot of repetition in a very short amount of time. And there is not a tendency. There are neural pathways that we develop that we end up calling habit. Right? Like we develop these neural pathways that allow for the execution of a task with more and more and greater efficiency, right? And we do that. Our brain creates a method by which we habituate a process or a performance, or the performance of a task, so that we don't have to give it as much thought, right? Right. It is expensive. Uh huh. That is an interesting. Uh, the brain uses about 20% of a person's daily energy, or about 300 to 400 calories, for background metabolic processes and to support a very high rate of neuron firing for conscious thought and maintaining functions. Um, so the total daily consumption is about 160 to 260 calories for your waking brain activity. Now, getting back to the video, that's an interesting side note, though. Thank you, John, for that rabbit hole. Um, we talked about the repetitive action. We also need to talk about on what repetitive and unchallenged repetitive action can cause. We typically see that in older individuals, where the repetitive action is like being seated in a reclined position, or sitting down at a table and doing crosswords all day, or something like that, right? Well, what I'm talking about, though, is that with these things that have more and more unchallenged uh, habituations. Now, the thing about firing a gun, or clicking on a mouse, or sitting down at a desk is when you are in a predicament where you do those things repetitively and with habituation. The deal is that you very often slow the onset of the effects of those things by committing to opposing action. I'm seated at my desk. I have to get up and go to the restroom. I'm going to get up and go get my lunch, or walk to wherever. I have to go hand something to somebody. If I'm working in office, if I'm a student, I have to get up and move between classes, provided that I don't have any mobility accommodations or what have you, right? Um, Even so, and remember, I'm not alienating anyone. I'm saying that when you have a physical presentation that you can undo, you just don't because of habit, right? Typically, what we see is when people like retire, we'll see that those habits, or I'm sorry, the effects of those habits assert themselves much more aggressively because those people don't have enough opposing action. So that's on like the macro scale, right? On the micro scale, you have someone who is 17 years old, practices for presumably thousands of hours. Uh, Probably, right? Like that's yeah. I was about to say, in a person that young, I mean, that guitar is more, or playing music is more than just getting good at a skill. It's also like a coping mechanism and a method for dealing with life. And there's a lot of associations and lessons to be learned out of the activity, right? Um, right. Yeah. And so as a young person, and like I said earlier, we addressed the thing of that's not that much life to have lived compared to all the life that there is potentially left to live. So thousands of hours with practice in that short amount of lifetime. And we're talking like, let's just say 9 years old to 17 years old, right? Right. That is a lot of practice in that relatively short amount of time to get that good at to get good enough. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, right. So the thing is like, we talk about the spider pancake test all the time, right? We talk about that a lot. Um, for those of you that might not know it, the spider pancake test is where you lay your hand down and on some kind of surface, right? Palm up, and you see how your fingers curl at rest, right? There's no stress in the hand. Squeeze your hand into a fist and make it and squeeze it as tight as is comfortable, um, uh, for 10 or 15 seconds. And as I'm doing this, right, you can see here the musculature in my hand and how it got active, right, or the activation in my hand. And then when I just let that go and let it relax, that's how curled my fingers are, right? Dead spider. Now, we saw that this is a more extreme version of the way that it was when I just let the hand rest. If I go and do the pancake test now, that is where I still have, you can do the pancake test in one of two ways. You can have your palm up or palm down. If you're going to go palm up, then you take the each fingernail, keep the back of your hand flat, take each fingernail and try and touch it into the table or the whatever you have it resting on, and hold it there for 10 or 15 seconds. If that's not comfortable because of rotational stress or whatever, then do your palm down and just keep your knuckles pressed into the table and then try and lift your fingertips up off the table. Either way is fine, right? It produces the same thing. So as I do that, now when I go to rest my hand, it's been 10 or 15 seconds. When I go to rest my hand, that's what's produced. Yeah, I mean, way more than when I just set it down before I did either, right? So that's the spider pancake test. Um, if you find Uh-huh. Yeah. 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 So the the mechanism wherein this person has their hand like this hours and hours and hours and hours largely goes unchallenged, right? My guess is this person probably goes to a music themed kind of school or whatever else, right? So there's just a lot of practice time. Right, right. Or give it a good massage or something. Yeah. Right. Well, the point is, good or bad, those habits inform how we approach our, the rest of our life, right? Uh, if you drive a lot, for instance, if most of what you do during the day is drive, you're typically going to find that you like to lean on counters a lot or something like that, right? There's a lot of brevity between the core and the thighs, and then you're going to do your best to subconsciously just make those things manifest because it's more comfortable. Um, mhm. Yeah. Right. Okay. So there you go. Right. Some. Mhm. Um, the 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 thing is that okay, so you and I were talking off camera about how, let's say that you're going to go get a diagnosis, right? Like that this person's going to go to the doctor, and they should schedule an appointment. And typically anymore, you're going to go to the doctor, and you're not going to get an appointment for the next like 3-4 weeks, maybe 2-3 months, right? Like depending. Yeah. Right. Right. We think of, especially with stuff like this, we tend to think of we are at a dead end until after we visit the doctor. Um, because we got the signal from our body that there's some kind of change that needs to happen, or we have really fucked ourselves up somehow, right? Um, but we can do our best to make, you call it the pain cave, like you refer to a lot, right? The pain cave. Like we can do our best to see if we can get ourselves out of the pain cave. If there are other, if there are tests that we can perform or things that maybe we can do to see if we can begin our own ascent out of the pain cave, then there's no reason why we shouldn't do them. So yes, absolutely, 100% go to the doctor. But also, these people who are in these comments with a 17-year-old and they're going, "Oh, you got focal dystonia." That is fucking that is like, that's hardcore shit to lay on a child, right? Like, and so before we get to that, maybe what we could do is, maybe you should do these tests. Do the pancake spider test. Yeah, stretch your hand out. Maybe that's the issue. Uh, It's like if you've ever had a snow cone and it's had, it's got a lot of dye and all that other stuff in it. Right. Sure. I'm not arguing, right? Whatever floats your boat. After you eat that, a few hours later or a day later, things aren't going to look, well, yeah, there's the blue tongue or whatever, right? But a few days, an hour later, or a couple hours, or maybe a day later, things are not going to look like you're used to them looking during a movement. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna look like you've got some kind of some kind of chemical flush or something, right? Um, Before you think that something's ruptured or something like that, maybe think back, oh, maybe it was this thing that I ate, right? Like, oh, I want to make a quick aside to this. I was talking to somebody this past weekend, and they were talking about, well, you hear all the time about how doctors fuck this up or fuck that up, and I'm like, you hear all the time about that because those are the only people that talk about it. And that's not to say that it doesn't happen, because it absolutely does, right? There are bad actors in every single walk of life. The one thing, that's right, right, yeah, like those aren't the people being like, nobody's chasing them down, right? Those are highly personal stories, and so we don't hear about that in the far greater majority. So anyway, all that to say this is that the thing is that you're not at a dead end whenever something like that happens, and there is a way for you to see if that habit is capable of being rewritten, if that's all it is a habit. Um, so when someone says, "Oh, I've got pain in my, I've got some pain in my chest," and that's the only description, and the first thing that someone says is, "Oh, you're having a heart attack. You better get to the hospital," and then someone else might say, "Press here. Does the pain go away?" Well, yeah. Okay, well that's affecting muscle. There's nothing that I'm going to be able to press right here. It's going to be able to affect my heart. So, um, palpate that for a little bit. Try and stretch that out. If it goes away, your chances of right, yeah, other comorbidities, right? Yeah. Well, no, that's true. So the thing is that if you can do a couple of simple tests that reveal that you have, for lack of a better term, painful habits, right? Then there is a way for you to rewrite that that code, that kind of neurological agreement that you have made for yourself. And like with this person, simple test revealing, there's this thing that where the hands start to shake. Try this pancake spider thing. Try and lift that up. Yeah, yeah, no, hmm, yeah, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Lubrication and yeah. The point that's yeah. The point is that you if it's available, right? If it's something that you created, right? Not like some kind of pathology or something, right? Then chances are pretty good that you can introduce a new habit to create a balanced relationship. Kind of the thing that I tell clients is you want to have at least 2 minutes of devoted corrective exercise per every hour of an offending habit, right? So for instance, if I'm fucking playing like this for 8 hours, I want to have, somewhere around 15 to 20 minutes of throughout the, not 15 to 20 minutes of this shit because it won't be feasible, but I'm playing for an hour. Just stop and just do the pancake test. Uh, yeah.